Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Gift of Gaming podcast, and this week's been fairly miserable weather-wise here in Ireland, but don't worry, the sun's about to shine, because we're kicking off our Super Smash Bros. Series with episode 1. What's up, it's me, your host, Darren Wade, and today I'm joined by, of course, if we're talking Super Smash Bros., Craig the Critical Nolan. Craig,
how you doing, Darren? Excited to be here for Smash Episode 1. Woohoo!
We've been waiting for this one for quite a long time. But before we get into that, Craig, is there anything you've been playing? And how are you? What are you up to?
I'm good, but I haven't really been playing many video games of late. I'm just in a bit of a slump where I could really use some recommendations or something like that. But at the moment, I don't really want to spend a lot of money. Yeah. So I'm just kind of like, your brother is trying to get me. Well, he's always trying to get us involved in some of those games. But what is it? His latest
Helldivers.
There's Helldivers 2, and then there's the Space Marines, right? And both are, I think, kind of similar third-person shooters.
Third-person shooters. Me and Niall are playing through the Space Marines at the minute, and we're on. I think we've only got 1 or 2 missions left in the campaign. That's been a blast. I mean, if it was, because it's a full-price game, £70. If it
I can't play that. No.
And if it was a bit, I think that's the only thing that would stop me recommending it straight off the bat to anyone. Yeah. But it has been.
It has outsold Final Fantasy Rebirth as well already.
Has it really?
It has. So I will not spend money on that game. Because I'm like, it baffles me how games sell these days, you know, that the interest for the latest craze,
like both those games are the same price
type thing, and I'm like, one is clearly amazing and one is not.
Well, I mean, the one thing I will say is I think you'd be biased in terms of you're a massive Final Fantasy fan, but
I'm also a massive Gears of War fan, so I can see a rip off when I.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's totally. But I think that for me personally, playing the games, I think the modern video games needed that again.
We did. If we don't have it, but we should have a better one for €70.
Well, you haven't played it. That's what I'm saying. I think it's been
I've
fantastic.
Watched lots and lots of videos on it, and I'm
watching
setting my way.
Is the same as playing
if you have a 6 to 8 hour campaign, by default, that is a bad game.
Well, so me and Niall have been playing it. It's I mean, I would say A, it's probably longer than that, and B, it's not just the campaign. There's operations which are in line with the campaign, and then there's an online mode.
But that's like a Call of Duty where you're relying on just communities and like people playing online to make the game good, as opposed to the game being fun by itself.
The operation thing you can do single player. That's all just you can just choose to do it with people if you want. So there's including the campaign missions, which are about an hour and a half each. There's like 6 of them, I think. They're about an hour and a half to an hour 40 minutes each per mission. And then there's the operations, there's an operation per campaign level, and the operations are about 45 minutes each, so you're talking like per level. So me and I were doing a thing for a while. We do the campaign and we do the operation in line with that, because the operation you can use your customized character, which is kind of cool, because they're doing something adjacent to the main campaign, so you get to go in with your own loadout and stuff like that, your own weapons and your cool designed, so in the main campaign
you're stuck with that ship blue armor with the crappy icons on the side.
Yeah.
And then for the other thing, you get to use the good stuff.
You get to use all the customizable stuff.
I didn't realize that.
So each one, then, like, if you're talking like each campaign mission is about like 2 and a bit hours, and if there's 6 of them, 12 and a bit hours for a campaign. I mean, I don't need a game to be. That's what I mean. You can talk about a game looking beautiful or a game lasting 100 hours, whatever else. Great value for money, whatever else, but in terms of, I've been playing 10 hours of Space Marines, give or take, whatever my play thing on it, and there's probably only about 3 or 4 hours left in terms of campaign stuff before I do the online stuff. But if that's all it is, I've had a blast doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like a really enjoyable time. And I don't think a game needs to be 100 hours anymore. And I don't want that right now. Same why I was so excited about Astrobot. It's nice to have a game that's like, hey, I don't have to devote 1,000,000 hours to this.
And I completely agree. Sometimes I do want a short game, but I want the price to reflect that.
Yes.
So when it's free to play on PlayStation, I will buy it. I will get it day one. I'll download it and have a great time. But I'm not spending 70. And I'll be always bitter about it if it's 70. Like if that game is like 50, I'll be like, oh my god, yeah, I think I'll get that. But now, unless it's free, I'm not getting it, because I'm angry at them for it,
Yeah. And it is a crazy price, and it's crazy that you can compare, because I think Rebirth was 80, right?
Yeah.
When it came out. So 10 quid in the difference, and the difference in quality in those two games is massive. But at the same time, you need to be into RPGs and Final Fantasy 7 to enjoy Rebirth to the extent that we did.
Yeah, of course.
Because otherwise, I think it's a massive undertaking for people who aren't, into that story, into that kind of stuff.
It's just like watching The Fellowship of the Ring or something. Like, it's a nice story with a bunch of characters just going from A to B. I think it's great.
You watched, another question I was going to ask you. you watched part of the PS5 Pro breakdown with Digital Foundry when they were playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in terms of how it could look with the
Wow.
Has that changed your mind at all in considering purchasing a PS5 Pro?
It's still early for me to see because one, I don't understand. It's $700, right? Is that €600 or is that €700?
No, it's I think for us it's €799. I think it's €800.
So it's more.
Yeah, I think so. I think Europe kind of.
Because I thought
I'll double check it here.
$500. I never know what the currency exchange system works.
But it
doesn't make sense to me if the base PS5 was €400 and I got the expensive one with the disc drive on purpose because I have hundreds of DVDs in my house at all time and I like to be able to play them when I want.
Yeah.
And this Pro will not have a DVD drive at all, right?
No, as in you can buy it.
Or is there an more expensive one that has that?
No, you can buy the disc drive separately. So you can get the PS5 Pro. So this is the problem that I have with it in terms of expense. Yeah, it's €799 is how much it'll be released by. But then you've got to buy if you want the disc drive I think is another £80 or something like that. You can buy a disc drive separately that attaches on.
So you're talking €880.
No. It gets more because if you want the stand as well, for a stand that comes separately, and that's another €30. So it's about 910.
The stand is 30. This tiny piece of plastic.
It's not the same ones that we got with the original PS5. It's like a stainless steel kind of circular.
Because the one that comes with the PS5 is terrible.
Oh, it's just like a 3D printed.
It's the most flimsy thing you'd ever see. If you move your PS5 in any way, it falls off.
Yeah.
So it's €910. You're saying,
give or take, yeah.
No, I'm giving you the flat response. Now I won't pay that. I couldn't afford to do that. Even though I love Final Fantasy more than anything, and I'd love to be able to play it that way. I'd be better off just getting a PC and playing it that way, right?
I mean, in
Right?
theory,
that
yes.
makes sense.
My only thing about it is, playing a PC, I always get quite nervous about that in terms of building a PC and things not working the way they're meant to.
I would just hire someone to do all that for me. I'd be like, here's £100. Give me a good PC. I'm not learning any of that shit.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I don't want to. It's another language to me, and it's not a good language.
The one thing I want to check, right? So we paid €500 for
PS5.
For the PS5.
And that's still the price,
2009.
Look at us, so off topic.
I know, right? We'll get to Smash eventually. I'm just curious, in today's monies, that's a terrible way to Google search, but we'll see.
I mean, inflation hasn't risen that much, in 4 years.
€100 or 129. This isn't going to tell me exactly what I need to know. But I'm wondering, in terms of cost-wise, is the PS5 Pro based off how much we paid for the PS3 not that insane, but I still think it's pretty crazy. Still pretty crazy money. To get it with a disc drive and everything like that, it's pretty mental, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And again, like I said, if we're halfway through or just past halfway through the PS5's life cycle, so it might not even be,
What's crazy is the PS6 will probably be €500, €600.
Well, that's the thing is I wonder if they can charge that much for the PS5 Pro, will the PS6 be that much money?
Like the improvements to software and tools and stuff like that will have increased by that time. Or maybe because it does seem that like technology is starting to slow down in terms of advancements.
Yeah.
So then we just don't need the next console iteration. They should pull back and do what Nintendo do and hold back on the advancements until the technology is cheaper.
Absolutely, and as well as that, it's like it's the what they say, the diminishing value of diminishing returns, or whatever it is, whereby you might pay X amount of money, but the graphics aren't going to be all that much better for the cost of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because if you want games to look as good on this latest hardware, it's going to cost whatever company's making it a huge amount of money to make the game. So the cost of the game then becomes expensive. And like technology isn't getting any cheaper in that sense. Do you know what I mean? If we want things to look the best, you're still just paying more and more money. So I don't know. I looked at that and I kind of thought, man, if there was a way I could sell a few bits and bobs and buy a PlayStation 5 Pro, I'd definitely consider it. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
But this isn't what we're here to talk about, Craig. We're here to talk about Super Smash Brothers, the game that we've been playing together for a number of years.
Uh-huh.
And we said for our first episode, we'll kick into it and we're going to kind of go through the collection of Super Smash Brothers games that are out there and kind of talk about like what we think were the good and bad ones, if you can consider any of them bad.
None of them are bad.
Yeah.
I'll just flatly say that right now.
None of them are bad, you're right.
Every one of them is better than 99% of games.
Yeah. And they've, I think in my little Wikipedia searches and stuff on them, everything was like, any iteration was classed as one of the greatest video games ever made, added to the books of greatest video games ever made.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 6 Super Smash Brothers games.
Nice. If you
Kind
count
of
the 3DS
3DS
and Wii
one.
U as 2, yeah.
Yeah, which I will do because I played the 3DS one and not the Wii U one. I didn't have a Wii U, so I thought it'd be good to maybe
Okay.
break
I
it
played
down
the
that
hell
way.
out of the 3DS one and then played the hell out of the Wii U one.
Because the 3DS one was early, right?
Yeah, it came out 6 months.
Smart.
They said like it
move.
was only going to be a couple of months, but they purposefully stretched that out a little
Yeah,
bit, like, you know, because
absolutely.
otherwise people would have just ignored the 3DS version.
Just got the
and
Wii U version.
but
Yeah.
there was a big gap.
It's like the
between
Pokemon X and Y. Do you know what I mean? Get them both, Sword and
Yeah.
Shield. Get them both. You know. So how do you want to? Do you want to start off with maybe? I mean, we could go in the years in which they came out and discuss them, and then break them
Sure,
down
yeah.
as to what our favorite ones were, or kind of an order of the ones that we liked them or not. So I guess we should start off for those who don't know. This is going to be an episode entirely devoted to Super Smash Brothers. So if you don't know Super Smash Brothers, continue listening because you should definitely play those games because they're amazing. And to the Super Smash Brothers fans, sit back, strap in, and get ready to talk about Super Smash Brothers. So the first one, Super Smash Brothers on the Nintendo 64, the original in 1999. Earliest memory of that?
What an absolute cracker of a game. That was one of those games where just anytime I heard news about it, I was super excited and like would buy those N64 magazines
Yeah.
just to see a single screenshot of Pikachu hitting Mario, and I
Yeah.
would lose my shit. Like, you know, I was just so hyped like to have that in a game that it just seemed impossible.
That era of the late 90s into early 2000s, when we would have been big into gaming magazines to see this, because I did the same with like Kingdom Hearts when I saw the excitement that you get with seeing those screenshots, because I wouldn't have bought the gaming magazines. My brothers would have, and they would have like come down and shown me, especially because I would have been the Pokemon fan at that time. In 1999, I was like, you know, it was all about Pokemon back
didn't
then.
yet have the videos to like show off all these cool
Yeah.
stuff. So all we'd have was a screenshot and we'd be like, oh my god, look, there's 4 characters on
Yeah.
the screen at once.
But Super Smash Bros., the first one, kind of changed, you know, it changed tact on what the normal fighting game was. Because normal fighting game was usually a 2D.
A fighting game is traditionally just 2 people beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
But like in a very close like camera angle, so you
Yeah.
can't really go anywhere. You're basically like 2 feet away from the opponent at all times. And that always annoyed me because I always felt like I'm not really the character. I'm just kind of like, you know, rock, paper, scissors.
I'm the
ring it
combo
all
or
the
whatever,
time.
yeah.
You know, like I either attack or I tilt back type of thing,
Yeah.
you know. So I played games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and they were fine, but I'd always get bored of them very quickly because I just refused to learn how to go forward, down, forward, left,
Yeah.
right, up, down, blah blah blah. You know,
And-
I just don't want to learn all that nonsense.
And when Smash Bros. Came out, and it was kind of these platform arenas that were all different, like almost little maps that you could, almost like a little mini platforming game, traverse in a way. I remember seeing the first screenshots of that, and I enjoyed fighting games. I've been playing Tekken like my whole entire gaming life. I've always loved Tekken, but to see something like that as a kid, because I was never as good as my brothers were at Tekken, it required a brain more intelligent than my 9-10-year-old brain to like fathom all the combos and everything like that. But this idea that you could traverse, like run around on this little map and fight, you know,
In
whoever
many ways,
might be.
it's like a 2D side-scrolling
Yes.
game, but with
Yeah.
all these crazy characters that you can beat each other up
Yeah.
in the process of that. Because
And-
there are a lot of moving stages as well, particularly on the kind of one-player modes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Which
And it was amazing as well in terms of this, to switch it up, that it was this idea that you would not a health bar. There was no health bar that you try and knock down on the other player. It's a percentage that you build up a percentage on your opponents, and as that percentage gets higher, the knockback effect of your moves gets greater, so you try and knock them out of the level as opposed to just KO them. And for me as a kid as well, it meant that I got a lot more game time than I would have playing normal fighting games.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was something that I really enjoyed. I got to stick around. I could run
It was
away.
like Mario
and
Kart. You just hit a question box, which was your item, and then anything could pop out, which could easily just change the game for you. It could be a star power, and then you're just invincible for 10
Yeah.
seconds.
And what I love is I'll throw in a bit of a trivia here. So this is Sakurai was the guy, the mastermind behind Smash Brothers, and his reasoning for creating Smash, if my Wikipedia research later on today is anything to go by, was he was playing. What's the game that Terry's from?
The King of Fighters.
King of Fighters, I think. Whatever King of Fighters game was around in 1995, he was in an arcade and he was very good at fighting
Your
games.
Wikipedia knowledge is up to date. I know this.
Yeah, good. And correct me out any part if I'm wrong, but he was playing against just the kind of random guys in the arcade and he was whooping them all. Like, he was just way better than these guys were, and he wanted at that point to be like, I need to develop a game that's just
Well, he
better
felt bad
by-
because the guy had come over and his girlfriend was like cheering him on, and like Sakurai absolutely destroyed him, and then him and his girlfriend left kind of deflated, and he felt bad about like, your man, that guy probably won't play fighting games again anytime soon.
Yeah.
He felt like he had kind of ruin the game for that guy just by annihilating him.
Yeah.
And I'd often feel that way too. Like,
if because you don't want to, and that's the thing as well. And hats off to our mate Niall, who I think is very competitive in a good way. In that when he first started playing Smash Bros, for example, he was awful. He was dreadful, like anybody would, you know. Mm-hmm. And I like that he would have been like, no, I'm going to keep playing this until I get better. But that's not what everybody's like. You can really suck an enjoyment out of a game if you immediately play it and you just get whooped. You're like, well, I don't want to spend the time, invest the time in this to be good. So Sakurai wanted to make something that was a little bit more, I suppose, easier entry.
Just anyone can play.
So he came up with a prototype known as Dragon King the fighting game, which was this kind of had just kind of normal character models and kind of normal platforming kind of levels, much like what we see in Smash Brothers now. But he wanted it to include, he was like, I don't want to have for people to be excited about this game, he wanted certain characters in it, and he was like, well, Nintendo characters would be amazing. But he knew he couldn't approach Nintendo at that time to be like, give me your IPs put in this fighting game if he didn't have anything. So he created this full almost fighting prototype game called the Dragon King, the fighting game, whatever. And then once he had that prototype, approached the higher ups in Nintendo, was like, look at this game, but imagine this game with a crossover of all the Nintendo characters. And he sold Nintendo on it, and Smash Brothers was born then 2-3 years later or something like that. Thank God.
And what a world, like, you know.
What a world. Tell me, Craig, the starting lineup. Can you call out who we have in the first Smash Brothers? Who's our original roster for Smash Brothers?
Well, there's Mario, Link, Pikachu, Fox, Zelda, Kirby, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, and then there's the DLC characters: Luigi, Captain Falcon, Jigglypuff, and I think I mentioned them all. And Ness as well. That's the 12, and they were the full 12 characters, like, you know. But you only got 8 to start with, and the 4 are the ones you unlocked.
Yeah.
And that became a staple in the series. There were only 4 to unlock in the first game, but unlocking them was so much fun, and figuring it out how to unlock them was so much fun that in later games that became a much bigger deal.
Yeah. I need to find out who's unlockable in this roster or whatever else. But imagine, like, 1999, what a crossover. Like Captain Falcon. And that's what I find. Captain Falcon's a funny one because he's been made by Smash Brothers, essentially. Like, he wasn't really a character prior to Smash Brothers. He was
he was just a face on a racing car driver for F-Zero, but he didn't really exist beyond that. I mean, he has an anime now, and like in F-Zero GX they gave it a story mode, but even then he never spoke, he never did anything, and now he has all these cool catchphrases like "show me your moves," which is all like, developed by Smash Brothers. If you play Mario Kart, like, there's a level dedicated to Captain Falcon, and like when you're driving down, you can see a big poster, a billboard of Captain Falcon, and it says "Show me your moves," which is only from Smash Brothers, but that's become part of his, like, who persona. He is now. Like, you know, like if you had another F-Zero game, I shit you not, he would say "show me your moves." Like, he would, that would be his catchphrase.
All of his catchphrases from Smash Brothers, the original one, would be
included, like, you
absolutely,
know, because he's just iconic in the Smash Brothers series. Like, you know, he's always been one of the better characters, one of the more fun to play.
And like, as well, like, in terms of, we're all about the multiverse now and the Marvel universe, and lots of kind of TV shows and movies do like crossing timelines and things like that, and we're all very familiar with it now. But I remember it was, again, that excitement of the crossover of Square Enix and Disney when I was looking at those magazines for Kingdom Hearts. Then you had this thing where it was like, holy crap, Mario fighting Pikachu and Donkey Kong's there, and who's this Captain Falcon fella? I've never heard of him. He looks dope. Do you know what I mean? So that, I remember as a kid being like, holy shit, what is this kind of crossover game, you know?
But if you had that on the PS1, it would just be 1 versus 1, and Smash would be, if Smash was only 1v1, it would be a terrible game. Now the pros would argue against that because they love their fucking tourney nonsense, but if it was 1v1, it would never have sold, you know. It never would have taken off and become what it is today. It was only after Melee anyway that, like, the whole tournament scene came into play. But if the original Smash Brothers was only 1v1, it would not have been anywhere near as successful. Like, a huge part of it is the chaos of 4 people at once with all the weapons and all the items and all that stuff.
And I loved that, like, when again, when we were growing up, we had a PlayStation and a Super Nintendo. We didn't have a Nintendo 64, but a brother's friend of ours had the Nintendo 64. He was our Nintendo guy, but I think he only had like 3 maybe Nintendo 64 controllers. But we went and bought, because he had, like, it was just himself, and like he had no kind of, I mean, he had his mates, whatever, but no siblings to say that would have been playing the Nintendo games with him. So we went out and had no Nintendo 64, but bought a Nintendo 64 controller. And I think I remember it was a green one or something like that.
Nice,
a full
green. Yeah, I had the green one too.
And we bought that one, and so we had a fourth thing. So when anytime we came over, all four of us could play Smash Brothers and stuff like that. But like the rest of the time, it just sat in our drawer. We didn't have a 64, but it was just to play, Smash Brothers, like you know, and whatever else would have been like 4-player, like you know, Perfect Dark or whatever else, you know. But I think Smash Brothers was one of the early things that we were like, let's give that a go. But a great
opener to the video game series, and it changed fighting games. Well, I'd have liked to have said it changed fighting games forever, but nobody even attempted to make a Smash Brothers until very, very recently.
Honestly, last like 5 or 6 years.
You know?
Some people.
Everyone else just went, no, there's no way we can compete with this, and you still can't. Like nothing comes close to Smash Brothers, like at all. It's miles above everything that could possibly be because it has 6 games worth of content in one.
Yeah,
you know.
And every iteration has improved on the previous iteration
massively,
and they've only been, like I said, they've only been improvements. There's been no downgrades. I know a couple of characters, I think, between Melee and Brawl got
split
cut,
mechanic or whatever, but generally it's they've always improved.
Yeah,
you know?
It was great. So mode wise, first Smash Brothers game 1999 had obviously the standard adventure mode, single player mode.
Well, it didn't have an adventure mode. They just had the kind of campaign, which you beat up like a bunch of set bad guys, and then fight Metal Mario, and then the Master Hand. Yeah. But there was like the board, the platforms, and there was break the targets. There was those 2 mini games, and each character had a very unique one specifically to their moveset. Yeah. So by completing them, you would learn how to use the character a lot.
Such a great idea to throw it in.
It was brilliant.
Like, you know?
It was annoying that they didn't bring that back, but I'd say they took a long time to develop per character. Yeah. And 12 is fine, but once you go to 25 to 30, whatever, you know, you're starting to really invest, and like now we can't do that.
Because I remember with Ness, I think he was the first character I wanted to try and play as, because in the roster I had no idea about who he was or what he was from, but he was a kid, and I was like, oh, I'm kid, I'll be this cool kid in the game too. But I remember his up and B, his like charge thing to get him back to the map. That was in the original. That was still his recovery one in.
Yes. That's always been his recovery, yeah. But it'd be very difficult to figure that out. Like if you're off stage and you pressed up and B, you're like, why did I just die?
Why did I just fire a thing? And that always annoyed me. And I remember trying to do his break the targets thing, and there was a section in it where the only way you could get to the last target, I think, was doing his up and B and launching up there. And I was like, this game's fucking impossible. Because I was like a kid, I had no idea how to use the moves.
You never figure out how to get up. You just think you're double jump and that's it.
Yeah. But I love that explained it. So we had those modes, break the target, and yes, the platform one as well. I'm trying to think, do I have any other notes on it? No, that's kind of...
The original Smash Bros. Is kind of bare bone. Like it was quite... You know, just you had your 12 fighters. There's not many modes. You had to break the targets and stuff, but it was mostly just a multiplayer experience. Like, you know, Melee is where they really opened the game up and just threw as much as it was like any idea he had, he just put in instantly.
Shall we move on to Melee then?
Yeah, I think it's
so.
Time.
Melee 2001, 2 years later. Poor old Sakurai with that development time, because I think on my Wikipedia research for this as well, I think one of his biggest problems looking back on the production of Melee was that they nailed it. It's an incredible game, but he was like, for 2 years he had no weekends and no time off and no holidays and just absolutely.
And Nintendo wanted it to be a launch game. Now it came out a couple of months after the GameCube, thank God, but like there's no way it would have been ready.
No, could you imagine?
But that trailer. The
opening
trailer for Melee that like showcased,
is that
pretty much like, this is a trailer showing what the GameCube can do, and everyone lost their shit.
Yeah, and is that the one that starts off with the music that goes dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that one's so good. And then you just see Mario go from his, like in the original Smash Brothers, they are toys brought to life. Yes. Whereas in this, you just see the kind of amiibo-like statue, and like it just gets hit with a bolt of lightning type thing, and Mario just comes to life, and you just go, wow. Yeah. And then he just immediately jumps towards Link, and the two start fighting. And the graphics, even now that I'm thinking about that trailer in my head, I think the graphics, even now if you were to watch that trailer, hold up. Because most of it wasn't in-game footage. No, they just created CGI, like a CG trailer. But like, what a thing to spend your money on. Like, you know, it really got all these excellent characters from Nintendo and just went, the Nintendo movie coming soon. Yeah, so good. So with that one, with Melee, we kind of enter... We'll talk about the competitive side of Melee I suppose maybe at the end, because that was the latter part of Melee's life cycle. But we now have classic mode. We have the adventure mode, which was somewhat unique for each character somehow. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't. You had you went from like a Mario level to like a Zelda level to like a F-Zero level. You know, you had about 10 different kind of adventure stages, which were quite unique. You even had like in the Hyrule one, you were going through this kind of maze. With the zombie guys from... the zombies, but like you're actually fighting zombies from Ocarina of Time. Like, and it's the same in the Mario level. You were fighting Goombas and Koopas and stuff, and it was just like a regular side-scrolling Mario game. Yeah, it was so good. Because I remember getting... It's 2001, so I'm 10, 11 playing Melee and trying to do that level with the zombies. I remember that actually spooked me a little bit as a kid because it was kind of hard to figure out
It kind
that
of
is
did,
where to go.
I never
and
liked
everything
this.
like that in the
Like
high roll.
anytime a zombie grabbed me, I'd always used to freak out. You know. But that was in the original Ocarina of Time. So seeing it here, I was like, oh, I don't know
about that. But so I had that as well. So this is where the game, as you said, really takes a step up because not only do we get like the game that looks better and a rake of new characters as well on top of that, we've got a whole load of new modes. There's All-Star as well, where you can play against every other character in the game. So off the top of your head, can you remember who we got new? I mean, probably a
I know all
characters.
13. I know everything. Like,
so we had our 12 for the original Smash, but who are the 13 that we get now in Melee?
It'd be hard to name them all in order, but we got Zelda / Sheik.
Yeah.
We got Bowser. We got Mart and Roy.
Fire Emblem finally made its debut to
Mart
American
is the
Europe.
original Fire Emblem character from the very first Fire Emblem game, which only released in Japan, so nobody knew who Mart was.
Yeah.
And Roy was from like Fire Emblem 6 or something, which hadn't even released yet. Not in Japan, not in America, not anywhere. So he was like a future character.
Wild.
That like, so somehow Sakurai got in touch with these guys and was like, okay, you have a character coming out soon. I'm putting him in my game ahead of time. Which is absolutely crazy. Then you had a bunch of kind of cloned characters like Pichu and Dr. Mario.
Ice Climbers?
Ice Climbers were
amazing.
the newer additions. Then you had Falco. You had Ganondorf. There was Mr. Game & Watch, my least favorite character at the time. Just because I don't like those ugly looking characters. Yeah. I love him now.
Yes, I think in terms of how he fits into the aesthetic is great. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially with the roster as big as it is now in Ultimate, he's such a great character to have in it. But yeah, I can see why in this one you're like, oh, who's this fucking reject? You know?
You had Mewtwo, who was a nice, unique character. He was a bit like Samus, but he had a unique moveset as well.
Interestingly enough, I think one of the things I read about Sakurai was that what he wanted to do with the original Super Smash Bros. That he was looking for Bowser and Mewtwo to be in the original one, but it just never came to fruition at that time. But luckily, he got to get them in the second.
It's an odd like the original 8 are perfect. But I often look back on if we had like Smash Bros. Came out for the first time now, what would the 12 be? And I think they would be drastically different.
Yeah,
I won't go into what those are because I think that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
but I think about that a lot, like, you know. But there were 25 characters total. I think was it Duck? No, Duck Hunt wasn't in there.
Duck Hunt, I think, was he's only from the Wii U version from then on. I think I'm forgetting one or two, but no, I think that's good enough. So I mean,
we can. I'm not going to be able to remember every.
No, absolutely not. But what we can already see now is like jumping onto Melee. It's like. This roster
went from 12 to double.
Essentially, double the roster.
And with more than... Melee is when they introduced trophies.
Yes.
Like
the collectibles, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, I know they're not in the Ultimate, and I know why. It's just so much work. But like, collecting trophies in Melee was so much fun.
Yeah. To
get like an item that's in one of these 25 different games,
and they
25 different worlds essentially. Like,
so those trophies, when you were playing a random game, they just appeared on the map to pick up, didn't they?
You could pick them up in adventure mode. You could pick them up. I think there was like this gumball machine. You could pay your coins and they pop out and you get them. And like, so it made it fun. Just playing regular games would get you coins. You could bring those coins into a gumball machine and like, you know, pull the slots or whatever, and you would get new trophies like at random, but you'd be like, oh my god. And like each trophy you could see in 360 degrees, you could zoom in and out. It would give you a description, and like there'd be loads of information about what that trophy is and where it came from,
which is
you're just getting so much more lore to all the different games.
And it's you can begin to see Sakurai's curation of all things video games from Melee.
He's building
onwards.
A library within his game. Like, you know, he's building a library of video games within his own video game. And I just think that's so commendable. Like, you know?
Absolutely.
He also introduced Special Melee, which introduced like a bunch of crazy new random rules you could enforce, like Bunny Hood and Metal Mario, or
like the special event types or whatever else.
Most people kind of steered away, but you could really alter a match like substantially by just being giant or really small and stuff like that. It's essentially just kind of like make it even more whimsical, even though it already is.
And that's one thing we didn't touch on actually in when we were talking about the first Smash Bros. Games, but the items and the fact that we had these items that were a collection of things from the video games that we've got our characters from as well. Do you know what I mean? And I think, but was there any items that were in? You might not know this, but was there any items in the game that weren't from a game that was already within Melee? Like, do you know what I mean? Outside of the character selection, were there
Well,
any items?
generally, every item, like, because I mean, a beam sword is a lightsaber, but it's not from anything. There's a few that are just blatant rip-offs or something that they got away with, like, you know. So not every weapon is specifically from something, but a lot of them are, you know, like they're specifically from this game series. But now and then, like Sakurai was just like, no, I want a lightsaber or I want a baseball bat, but it's not technically from a specific game. But I mean, the baseball bat might be. It could be just Ness's baseball bat. That's just there.
One thing I would have, like, talking about like the event modes or the special melees or whatever. One of my favorite things to do, my favorite modes ever, which is just wild now, but as a kid I loved it, was turning all the items off except for the Pokeball.
Yes,
everyone had to play as
all the time.
Everyone had to play as a Pokemon character, and you'd put the
at that point
frequency.
I think there were only two. Pikachu,
just
maybe Pikachu as well.
And then you'd have the frequency of the items up to max, so that it was just, and you pick Pokemon Stadium, and it was just nothing but Pokemon wrecking the.
You wouldn't
even
need to have to fight. You just needed to have a fast character, preferably Fox, because if someone threw the Pokeball at you, you could reflect it back, and it became yours. You know, so that's what I would do all the time in that situation.
Very very good.
Or Falco, he could do it too. But like, if you had a Pokeball, the smart thing to do was to drop it on your feet. You know, that way it was always yours. Because if you're up against a Fox, that guy was trigger happy with the reflect. Well, at least I was, so I got a lot of wins that way. Like, you know? And
like, because it had so much in terms of, you said, like, you've got double the roster, essentially double the levels now as well. Because
probably twice as many Pokemon were showing up. You'd like hundreds of trophies with all deadly descriptions about the video games, stuff like that. One mode they added, which we don't talk about, was the home run contest. That was the first time that came in. Just let's have every character play baseball for no reason, but like hitting this sandbag, you know.
And then trying to get the furthest distance. And I still watch, the odd time I still watch, it might come onto my YouTube algorithm, and someone will have just a thing of them getting like the maxes. You only have like 10 seconds to do as much damage to the sandbag as you can
before you hit it.
And then the more damage it has, the further it goes. But I was watching videos of someone like air comboing the shit out of it, and then they just managed to get a smash attack off with the baseball bat last second and blast it. I'm like, Jesus, people are still uploading stuff about Melee, like, you know, 13 years later, you know, it goes to show you, like, and it's a pity. That's the one thing. And, you know, there are many probably reasons why these things aren't included in the most recent one being Ultimate, but like break the targets, the home run contest, those are things that I miss. You know,
but a lot easier to do when there's 12 characters. You know, every time the game gets bigger, I'm like, surely anything character specific, it'll be hard.
It's dying. Yeah.
Because even from Melee onwards, they still did have break the targets and board the platforms, but it was the same one for all the characters.
Yeah, they didn't have a level specific. Here's how you.
They weren't tailor made for your moveset, so some characters could blast through them in 20 seconds, and like Ganondorf really would struggle, you know. Yeah,
and so Melee ended up becoming the best-selling game, I think, on the GameCube in its life cycle.
Yeah, in its whole life cycle. Yeah.
And I think it was at that point as well, in the early kind of when they had the collections of like greatest video games of all time or top 100, it regularly made, you know, not top, but very high up in all those lists of the games.
Because I mean, another thing we haven't spoken of, but like Melee, they introduced like there was so little lag between your moves and stuff like that it worked for people who wanted to play it competitively, because you could chain a lot of attacks together really, really quickly and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Even though I don't think that was what was intended. They just wanted to make the game faster, not realizing that somebody would be able to zero to death you if they got you with a certain move. Like, things, if Sakurai had known that before he launched the game, and you could patch the game, he would have patched all that shit out immediately. But the fans would come to love all that stuff. And
it's funny because Melee holds a very, when we talk about the competitive side of things, there's the I wouldn't say there's a nasty side to the competitive side of things, but there's an annoying side where it's like
there's a self-entitlement side where the people who play the one-on-one competitively think that the game is for them, and it's in no way for them.
No, it's like, I mean, it's great that it's competitive, but this was a game that, and Sakurai himself would have said that this was a game that was meant to be enjoyed just for the fun of it and not a competitive game. We hark back to that story of him in the arcade. You didn't want to be in a situation where you're just whooping people all the time for anybody to win. But one of my favorite memories, I think it's probably been mentioned in this podcast before, was when we had been getting really into playing Smash Brothers, probably the Wii U days, I think, when we were playing Smash Brothers in your old
when I was
house.
playing with like yourself.
When we first started hanging out, we then went to a Melee tournament in one of the pubs here, local like sports bars, whatever else. And I think that's why Melee holds such a solid place in my heart to go to that thing and to play Melee. And at that time we were like two iterations of the game ahead of Melee, but it was a Melee tournament.
Yeah, I think the Wii U version had already come out by then, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that's what we were playing, but we went to this thing to downgrade ourselves and go play it. But it was, the community was so great. Like, I'm sure there was probably some people who were like sad of losing, but I remember going into the matches, and even in that day, just like everyone was just having a great time. Just like, fucking,
brilliant to just be
60, 70 people just playing Smash Brothers, having a blast. And it ended up being two brothers
playing the usual ditto of Fox and Falco, which is how every tournament ends.
Yeah. But I love this because we didn't know anything about the competitive scene at all, but guys were telling us, the two finalists, these two brothers from Belfast, they've come down to Dublin to take part in this. And I was like, holy shit, like this is some serious stuff. But that was a great finale because I think the older brother lost an early game and had to go through the losers bracket to get himself right up to the final, and did it. And then they had this big thing, and we were all cheering him up. Was it "Let's go Falco"? Because we all wanted the younger brother to win because he never won, and he didn't win this time either. His older brother still won it. But
the two of them were like miles apart from everyone else. Like the stuff they were doing, do you know, the way they can go off stage and shine and then make it back. I'd never even seen stuff like that to that point. That was blowing my mind.
That was one of my favorite memories. Was I think the younger brother had knocked Falco had knocked Fox off the side of the stage and then fell down and used the the reflector thing to stop Fox's
to just stop his like up and B, just tip him and then like be able to somehow make it back.
And watching the whole room erupt watching this, and I was watching this being like, my God, I am very bad at Smash Brothers compared to like what these guys are doing, so exciting. So I mean, it was cool that this Melee developed into this kind of competitive scene. I'm not into it much myself, but it was great to go to the tournament. An interesting sidebar for Melee.
I've since watched loads of tournament fights and stuff like that. So if I were to see a match like that now, I'd just be like, look at these guys wasting their lives playing this game. I could be good at that if I wanted to. I just would never.
I just want to have fun with the game. Which is, I think, is the best way to be playing something like that. Okay, so any other thoughts on Melee before we talk about the next one?
No, I think we covered everything on Melee. It is to this day just an absolutely incredible game, I think
the thing I find surprising about it is that turning it back on even now, although graphically it's not overly impressive, the fluidity of that game is
it's one of the more because I mean I'd say the Wii version and the N64 version would feel clunky and a bit dated, but Melee would just feel nice and smooth in your hands if you were to just
to pick it up now out of nowhere. Okay, so then Melee was made in 2001, and 7 years later we get Super Smash Brothers Brawl for the Wii, 2008. First thoughts on Brawl, Craig? Because you would have gone. This is where I because I had a GameCube, I had a Nintendo 64, but I never had the Wii or the Wii U. So this is where I fell out of Smash Brothers for a little while. But what were your first thoughts on Brawl when it came out?
Absolute insanity that they had got Sonic and Solid Snake. This is where you really saw the difference in character, because they were always Nintendo characters before, but the fact that Sonic Snake got in and Sonic the Hedgehog got in, I was like, okay, the game is now changed. Now anyone can be in this game.
Third-party characters finally enter the fray, which was...
And they didn't just go, oh, here's Solid Snake. Solid Snake got this brilliant trailer where he's talking to the Colonel, about infiltrating somewhere, and you think it's a new Metal Gear Solid game, and all of a sudden he gets an invitation to this Nintendo thing, and he comes out of the cardboard box and it's newcomer Snake while Mario and Pikachu are fighting, and you're just one of the greatest trailers I've ever seen.
And this kind of gave birth to what ended up being one of the most highly anticipated things in the Smash Brothers series, was the announcement of the new character, because we all
yes,
the character had to be in a video game, of course,
but before then it was just because it was all in your magazine. Plus the internet wasn't really a thing. We didn't have a YouTube video to see a new character. They were just announced in some press update or whatever. But with the Wii version, we started to get trailers. Sonic got a trailer, and Solid Snake and Sonic both got their own trailers.
Did we get was Cloud in Brawl, or was Cloud
was not? He was the Wii U.
The Wii U version. Okay, interesting. So those were
the only two third party, but they set the precedent of what could be, what the next games would undoubtedly have lots of.
Amazing. And I think Brawl also had the Space Emissary, like a campaign almost, as opposed
Brawl
to...
was probably the most ambitious of all the games. It tried to do a one-player mode that had a canonical story that incorporated all 39 characters.
Jesus Christ.
And
do you want to give a go to the new entries for Brawl?
Right, the new entries, I mean, I think one of the first ones is probably Wario. Then you had Zero Suit Samus. You had Pit, Meta Knight. They're the ones that appear in the opening trailer. Anyway, I can visualize it in my head and Mario farting, like, you know. For those ones there. Then who else came into it? We had Snake and Sonic, like I said. We had Ike with the new. He was like one of my go-tos. Absolutely
so
incredibly
powerful.
good character.
Yeah,
we had Wolf came into it in that one. Young Link was in Melee. I forgot to mention that one before.
Oh, yes,
but I think
course.
this is where... Was it Toon Link?
Toon Link we got here, one? Yes, I think so.
Or did Toon Link come into the Wii U version? I'm not sure. We had an extra Pokemon. I think it was Lucario. Lucario came into Brawl. Along with who else? I don't know waste time.
But I mean,
basically,
absolutely
so many.
The game is done it again. Here's a new iteration. Here's another 13 to 14 extra fucking characters. Yeah. By the way, we've opened the door that these characters can be from any video game ever. Yeah. Just so you know. And that's
just so you know.
Yeah.
Like, an incredible video game. But, like, the fact is that the Subspace Emissary, not only did it try to do a story mode, and it was kind of, like, it was generally just side-scrolling, you know, adventure, where if you died, you switched to the next character. But it was always fun seeing Mario team up with, like, Pit at the start, or Link was teaming up with Yoshi, and, like, for no real reason other than their worlds were kind of close at the time. Together, it was great to see, and you'd always get a cool cutscene with those characters doing something together. Like, I think one of the ones was Fox's ship gets blasted down and he crash lands, and then Diddy Kong is fighting a Rayquaza, a Pokemon of all things.
Yeah.
And like the Pokemon goes to absolutely obliterate Diddy Kong, and all of a sudden Fox like jumps out of the cockpit and uses his speed dash ability to intercept Diddy before he's hit, and then Rayquaza like fires this big massive powerful blast to Fox, and he just hits it with the reflector and it goes and knocks him out, and then it's Fox and Diddy Kong in a boss battle taking on this giant Pokemon. Like, so random but so
and what's
cool.
Interesting that I found when I was doing my little bits of research for this was Sakurai wanted to do the Space Emissary himself, but Nintendo asked would he just focus on the multiplayer aspect of it. So, but they gave him permission to be like, okay, we'll let you pick who you want to come in to, you know, kind of do the story for the Space Emissary. So they got CJ Nojima, who was actually who developed the plot lines for multiple of the earlier day Final Fantasy games.
Oh, yeah?
So he was the one who came in and did the plot line for the Space Emissaries. Okay, yeah.
Because it was on the Subspace Emissary. You essentially had like Wario, King Dedede, Bowser, and Ganondorf were the villains. Yeah. All the other characters were good guys, but those four were villains. I don't know why, like, because like you could argue Wolf is a villain and loads of the other characters.
But I suppose they were in, like, if you look at it, you're talking about Mario's rival, Link's enemy. Who'd you say the other two were?
King Dedede and Wario. But like Meta Knight is a villain as well.
Yeah.
But because
he's
a cool new character,
they
just were like, no, we're making him a hero. Like, you know. So those four were the villains, and then the Master Hand was like their master. You know.
Yeah. Okay. And how would you rate? Because I never, like, Brawl, I think I only ever played possibly maybe in yours from time to time way back then, if even. So Space Emissaries, would you rate it highly as a piece that was...
You could finish it in like maybe 6 to 8 hours, you know, but it was just a tacked on thing to just let your imagination go wild, you know.
Look at all these characters do crazy things together.
One of the later things they start doing with the games was to giving everyone a big reveal trailer. Like before that, Sonic and Snake got their reveal trailers, but all the other characters were just like, here he is, you know,
a new challenger or whatever else.
Exactly.
Like,
or their introduction was part of the Subspace Emissary, because the Subspace Emissary got all the cutscenes.
And that's how you unlocked the extra characters as well, was it? Or was that
that was a means of doing it. You could also do the usual, like, if I do melee or if I do a versus match 100 times, I get Luigi, 200 Falco, 300 this, and blah blah blah. But you could get them through the Subspace Emissary as well. So if you didn't want have a lot of friends, and most people, what I always did was just play a one-on-one battle with a CPU and just immediately self-destruct, and then just do that over and over.
Oh man, your stats would have been awful.
I know they would have been, and like that, we didn't track that as well. From Melee on, they start tracking all of your data,
everything,
like how high you've ever jumped, how much you've ran, how much you've played, how many kills you've got, any thing you've ever done in Smash is recorded for you to view and check in on. I'm like, how has he incorporated those algorithms to just be able to track all of that?
And Brawl was the introduction of a level creator as well, wasn't it?
I think it was, yes. Tournament mode came in Melee, which we didn't include, but in Brawl, they had like the official create your own stage.
Yeah,
it was very bare, but it was still great.
I mean, like imagine a game. I mean, because you're talking, there's an extra 14 characters, so there's more levels again to represent the new characters, of course, that have come into the game, as they always do. And then on top of that, they're like, well, here's a tool to just continue building and creating your own levels. Simple maybe in its design, but like the amount of playability the Smash Brothers games are now having is just outrageous.
Do you know, like I had said that like he's building a game, like he's building this like treasure trove within his own game.
Yes.
From that point on, I don't think he ever did this after Brawl, but in Brawl, like say you didn't know who Diddy Kong was or you didn't know who Donkey Kong was, they had an archive in Brawl where you could go in and play the original Donkey Kong, you could go in and play the original Mario Kart, you could go in and play the original like
the actual
the game. Well, not the full game, but you would get to demo the first 5 minutes of Star Fox.
Wow, I didn't know that about Brawl at all.
And there was about 20 of them in there, one for each of the characters.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, I need to check out who this character, it's like you got a flavor for the character in Smash Brothers, got to test out the original game they're from, and then you could from there go into the Wii game store and buy the game if you wanted. So it's almost like Nintendo, the video game. You can use this as a means to purchase the original content. And like, so okay, good. This is what Smash should be like. You know? Yeah,
as you said, the celebration of games idea is becoming a really big part in the whole series at this stage. I don't think I've got anything else. We've kind of done the events thing, stage builder, the subspace emissary. Any other final thoughts on Brawl before we move on?
What was else different in Brawl? Oh, instead of the gumball machine, you had this like coin launcher mini game to get the trophies. Yeah, and again, there were way more trophies. Yeah, they really fleshed it out in Brawl.
13 more characters.
It should be noted though that, I mean, the competitive players absolutely hate Brawl because it's slower than Melee, and they had this random tripping mechanic that they introduced in it. So it was because this is where Sakurai started to realize, oh hey, this is getting too competitive.
I made this game for fun.
So he made it so that like once in every 10 times you went to dash, your character would stumble and fall. Yeah. So that introduces kind of randomness. And it's funny because
I appreciate him trying to revert on the competitiveness on the game. But even me, as a non-competitive player, found that very because I wouldn't consider myself a professional.
The slower speed or tripping is just not something I want.
No,
but I didn't mind at all. Like Brawl for me was still an amazing game. I never thought bad of it for a second. And sometimes, like I used to main Fox. I did think he was too fast sometimes.
And Melee's unbelievable.
I was like, this is a bit too chaotic for me. But just as a game that was just really, really ambitious to introduce a one-player mode with all these extra characters as well. It's still a great
one-player
game.
mode with the a really fleshed out multiplayer mode as well. Extra characters, extra levels, extra music. And I know like this, when we talk about the games, I always want to kind of delve into the characters, the music, or the levels. But I know we've got separate episodes for those things, so I won't do that. Mm-hmm. But Brawl's library now at this stage, you're just like, Jesus Christ, this game is, and that's only kind of half of what it ends up becoming by the time we get to Ultimate, which I just find is absolutely insane. But from Brawl, we move on to 6 years later. We get 2014. Early on in the year, we get Super Smash Bros. 3DS. And as you said, 6 months later, then we get Super Smash Bros. On the Wii U. So,
but the build-up to this game is very, very different to the build-up from all three of the previous games. In that, over a year, pretty much by the time the game was announced, they would show a reveal trailer. And in that reveal trailer, right off the gate, you saw a CG trailer for Mega Man and a CG trailer for The Villager and then a CG trailer for the Wii Fit trainer. And then over the next few months, every 4 weeks to 2 months, you got a new CG trailer for a new. So it went from the Wii Fit trainer to Little Mac, and then you were getting Shulk, and then you're getting Duck Hunt Duo, and then you're getting the Bowser Jr., and each one is a great reveal trailer that you're just on your edge of your seat to find.
Before the game ever came out.
Before the game ever even came out,
Great idea to build hype, man.
So you were just constantly, and they had introduced that from Brawl. It was a Smash Dojo that Sakurai did, and every day he gave one piece of new footage, either a new screenshot, new character profile, new trophy. It was always something. It was called the Smash Dojo, and he updated it every single day. And to this, I think only about 2 years ago did he stop doing that, but he had been updating Smash content every day for the last 15 years or however it's been, like,
because he did when maybe it was from this one onwards, but was that where he took a picture? He took a picture a day almost of and put on his Twitter.
He'd been doing that from, well, I don't know if Twitter was even out back then, but from Brawl he put it on the Smash Dojo.
Yeah.
And
just
there was
a
new
picture a
footage
day. Fucking unbelievable.
Something every day, and sometimes that new thing was a whole new character. So sometimes it might be just one trophy with some details, and other days it would be a brand new character or brand new level.
Yeah,
you know, so you'd be like, oh man, this is so exciting.
And the great thing about it being on Wii U and 3DS was, I think I got to play Brawl towards the end of its life cycle with you in yours. I think this is when we first started playing Smash Bros. Together, was towards the end of Brawl's life cycle.
Yeah, big time. And then like 2012, 2013.
Yeah. So then we know the Wii U one's coming up, and we're all really excited. And I was like, well, I don't have a Wii U. But then they announced, well, it's going to become releasing, not side by side, but a couple of months earlier on the 3DS. And I was like, well, I've got fucking one of those. I needed to play a Kingdom Hearts game, so I bought a 3DS. So we get it on the 3DS as well. And although I do have I think the game is still great, but it is one of those things where I appreciate the fact that it was available on 3DS, but there had to be a lot of things to kind of be taken away a little bit to make it playable on 3DS.
They removed Ice Climbers as a character just because he couldn't work on a 3DS with the amount of characters that can play on it on a 3DS. Then you would have 8 and it was simply too much. Plus, because the screen is smaller, they had to use an art style that I don't think really fitted Smash.
No, and the problem
it just
I had
made
with
everything much more colourful, so you could really see.
And all the characters had an aura around them, so you could actually see what was going on.
I mean, it looked good on a 3DS.
It did.
Compared to, say, if it looked like Smash for Wii U, but still worse because it has to be. You know?
But it was a great thing to be able to play in the lead up to actually, because I mean, you were of course getting it on the Wii U, and there was lots of anticipation between us and our crew to be like, I can't wait till Craig gets it on the Wii U and we gotta go play Smash. But in the meantime, just playing it on the 3DS, and I think you and me even probably had a couple of
3DS battles.
3DS battles, like, do you know what I mean?
Still to this day, it was an amazing experience sitting beside a guy going to Amsterdam, and he takes out his 3DS and plays Smash Brothers, and then I take out my 3DS. I'm like, you want a game?
Yeah.
And then I coming back from the bathroom,
yeah.
see us playing. I'm like, hey, you want to join us? And we got a 3-player game of Smash Brothers on an airplane.
3DS. So good.
I still think about that. I was like, what an experience.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the series as a whole, because it's that thing where it's fun to play by yourself, but everybody wants to play Smash Bros. With other people.
It's a multiplayer game.
Of course, the stranger on the...
If I didn't have mates who played Smash, it wouldn't be what it is to me, like, at all. I wouldn't care about it,
No.
But I have a big friend group who all play Smash Brothers, and it just makes it so much better,
And just we play casually, like just meet up, once a week and just have a few games and have the chats and a cup of tea, and it's great, man. Such a nice way to spend an evening. So, Wii U, what differs so much from the Wii U to Brawl? What's the extra stuff that we get?
The biggest one, 8-player Smash.
Wow.
Go from 4 to 8. Granted, if you go above 4, it gets pretty hard to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But like I said, we have so many people who like to play Smash now that even if I just say, hey, let's go to mine and play Smash Bros., there could be 5 or 6 of us end up playing, So the fact that it is 8-player works, and especially great for us.
We had a time before Andy and Kev and Thomas all moved away where we were playing 6 and 7 man, and the odd time you'd get the 8-man Smash as a regular, and I was like, this is kind of fucking insane.
I played 8-player Smash loads of times, which I'd say very few people who play Smash have ever done.
Yeah.
Whereas we did it all the
time. And it was wild, and I do love what an introduction to make it even more of that multiplayer fun. But I do have to say, when it comes to 8-player Smash, your level of skill means less and less with more and more people.
It's far more in line with what Sakurai wanted. Yeah, I always feel like my skill is no longer really, especially if you had items on 8-player, forget about it. Whoever can get to the item quickest is going to win.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
And as you said, we got extra characters in the form of we've a trainer, Duck Hunt Duo, Mega Man, but the big one. So they had those reveals kind of before the game came out. But whilst we had the game, it was it
was the first game that ever had the DLC.
Yes.
So Mewtwo was the first character, and they even did that 50 event extravaganza while we were over in Amsterdam on that same trip. That video launched showing 8-player and all the different modes that this new game would have. And the very final announcement was that Mewtwo was coming as a free download, which meant that DLC would be available in the future.
Yeah.
And that really, not only after the game came out, but then every few months later, we got another new video about another new character. And they put a lot more money into those ones because it was paid DLC.
Yeah.
So you usually got some pretty big names, which I think you're alluding to.
Well, when the moment we got to see, hear that amazing fight on boss battle music from Final Fantasy VII, and we see Cloud Strife with the Buster Sword, I was like, Smash Brothers has taken a different kind of turn for me. This is a different kind of game. And it was from that point onwards, I'll never forget, when I saw Cloud in Smash Brothers, that I remember years ago when I did this podcast with Luke, and we never put any of the episodes out. It was crappy equipment. I lost some of the ones we recorded through stupidity and stuff, so I never really published anything. But me and Luke started this thing of, at the end of every episode, he'd ask me, so Darren, what's it looking like for Sora to be in Smash? And I tried to start this hashtag Sora in Smash back in, not long after Cloud was announced, to be like, well, if Cloud can be in there, who's to say that Sora might not be?
Can't.
Yeah, and we got so many great characters after Cloud as well. But Cloud opened the door to be like, wow, like the reach that Sakurai and Smash Brothers has now is huge. Like in terms of who they're able to get into the game, it's a big deal. Do you know what I mean? If you can get Cloud into the fucking game, and like Mewtwo was because Mewtwo was brought back, wasn't it? Mewtwo
he was brought back
because
he was an original character.
Yeah.
Because when Greninja got announced, everyone got upset that it wasn't Mewtwo.
Yeah, and I don't blame them because Greninja's not a great character.
But Greninja's a fun character, but he's not as iconic as Mewtwo.
Yeah. So when you brought Mewtwo back, everyone kind of thought, well, great, we were getting, anyone we missed in the roster previously, with the exception.
And unfortunately, the first few characters that were released as DLC were all old previous characters. So it was a slow build up to get to the kind
Cloud
of
announcement and stuff.
Because the first ones were Mewtwo, Lucas, and Roy, all three of which had appeared before. You know. We never got Ice Climbers, unfortunately, because of the restriction. Because any of the characters you got, you could also get in the 3DS version.
Yeah, which is why they never brought Ice Climbers in, because they just couldn't make it work for the 3DS. Which is so heartbreaking for me, because Brawl was when I first began to play as Ice Climbers. To this day, Sebastian and Dale, as I call them. I don't know what the Ice Climbers' real name actually are.
Like Pippin and Nana, or one of them's Nana.
I should definitely learn their real names, but I've always called them Dale and Sebastian, and that was a real.
Have you ever played Ice Climbers?
No,
you should boot up Smash Brothers Brawl and play Ice Climbers on the collection series.
See if I want to buy it. That's amazing they do that. So normal modes in the Wii U and 3DS ones, the classic mode was still there in terms of battle through to
they abandoned the Subspace Emissary, which makes sense. I'm sure it took way too much time and stuff like that. But they included that ability. It was like a board game. I didn't play it much. I love the idea. It was kind of like a Mario Party-esque system where you're on a board game and you can move around and collect upgrades. But I could tell he just kind of tacked it on. But I love the idea of it. Depending on like what space you landed on, we could have a 2v2 or a 3v1, that type of thing. But because it generally was always just like 60 seconds with all these mad items on, it would always end just really quickly and really abruptly. It didn't feel like a strategic game that you could play and like really strategize.
Like imagine like a Smash Brothers Mario Party essentially would be a great shout, that you'd have this board game with all these mad things.
I mean, the concept
is
brilliant. It's just I think he needed way more time into it in order to make it good. But what we got also in the Wii U version, and we haven't had it since, was customizable movesets. So every character had like 3 versions of the special moves. So Mario might have a fireball that's kind of slow, but then a faster one and stuff like that. And Kirby has an inhale move, or maybe like instead of sucking you in, he actually breathes ice at you. Generally, it was either a faster or slower version of the move that did more damage, or was faster. One of those things. But it could really
a nice touch.
Affect the character you're playing as, to go up against someone and not know what moveset they have was a whole new kind of trick to it. Because I'd often pick Lucina, who's up and B, comes out really, really fast, but she had a version of that attack where she would up B, but it would dash forward really quickly. So if someone didn't know I had that move equipped, even though they're far away from me, I could just immediately be at them and hit them, and I would use that to alarmingly effect against Thomas a lot of the times. But you also had the Mii fighters who were because of all the costumes you could unlock in the game. It meant you essentially could play as anyone, because
the trailer for that was unbelievable. Reggie as head of Nintendo America, and I can't remember
the president
of Nintendo, and they got their own Mii's created, and the two of them had this weird kind of anime. It was them. It wasn't like it was drawn. It was them, and they were doing
this kind of anime type battle sequence,
fighting each other.
It was very fun.
It was so much fun, and I was watching, what the fuck is this? And then they announced the Mii characters, and I was like, this is insane. But the Mii characters took on, because that was meant to be create yourself in the game. But then it took a whole stance on, no, we can actually secretly kind of put in, not secretly,
from other
we can put in characters from other games,
yeah.
and although the moveset won't be as true to the character as some of the actual characters were interesting, it was just so good to have so many different, now in your version of thing have Barrett and Tifa and
Aeriths are
Aerith
included,
as
you know?
characters.
And that was another thing they did with only from Ultimate onwards, but they gave you like extra costumes with a character type thing that were available from that point on. But the Wii U introduced that, like, you know, you had your generic kind of black mage or soldier and things like that, but the way you name them or the way you face swapped or develop your Miis, you could really create some unique characters. You know, there were lots of like Iron Mans and Jokers on the internet and stuff like that of people who were like getting to bring in characters like Goku, who they always wanted to be in the game but will never be in it because they're not video game characters. But that's as close as they could get, you know?
I love it.
And yeah, it just made it a lot of good fun.
Any other thoughts on the Wii U 3DS version before we move to our final installment of Smash Brothers? We are moving on time here as well, I suppose.
I'd imagine we're way over, are we?
Oh, we're just approaching the hour now and we have to talk about Ultimate.
Well, then we may as well finish with the creme de la creme.
The creme de la creme. So 2018, only 4 years after the Wii U version, the shortest development that we've seen since the first and second.
It really felt like the Wii U transitioned into Ultimate. Well, for us, because we never stopped playing it, so we just transitioned directly into Ultimate, like, you know.
So Ultimate released in 2018 to an amazing kind of opening cutscene to a whole new idea that there's like a main campaign called what was it called again? Like
World of Light.
World of Light. I was thinking the Spirit Board. So there's this cool kind of open world map where you can traverse it and unlock all the characters as you go, because they've all been taken over or they've all been turned evil.
A similar take on that kind of board game, but this is more solo.
Yes.
You know,
it
had a nice art style with cool visuals. It was almost like a pop-up storybook, you know, with like you do different things and all of a sudden,
and I love that
the art in the background disappeared so you could unlock a new area.
Yes,
you know?
and like it's certain because they introduced spirits into this game.
Yes,
and the spirits were
they're essentially the trophies, but because they lacked the detail that the trophies had, they could make a lot more of them. You know?
And what I loved about it was that you would go into certain fights with certain characters from other video games that weren't in it, and they would have designed, Sakurai and the team would have designed one of the actual roster characters to kind of play like that
spirit, yeah.
So you had
which was brilliant.
Yeah,
you know?
Such a great idea. But before we get into that, my fondest memory of Ultimate is we were obviously so pumped, you and me especially, to play Ultimate, that the two of us took the day off work that it was released, and we went and got I brought us chicken fillet rolls and you had a thing, and I
was at Smith's toy store at 8 a.m. queuing up with everyone else.
I think I got down to you like whatever it was, you know, first thing in the morning, and after that the moment you got back home, and we played from that, and it was great because we played from then because I was off work, and the lads would like slowly, like, you know,
start to arrive,
trickle down and start to arrive to the house as they were free, and I was there till like, you know, I was like in your gaff for like maybe 13-14 hours, and we played through it so much until we had unlocked almost all of the roster and everything like that. What a joy of a day that was.
Another great idea was that, because in the 3DS version, you unlocked all the characters gradually, but because they knew everyone would have the 3DS version by the time they got the Wii U version, they were like, okay, people won't want to unlock them all over again because it's only been a few months. But I loved that. That's my favorite thing to do in Smash Bros. Is unlocking the characters. So when Ultimate came out, although Ultimate now has 89 characters,
outrageous,
you only started with 8.
That's
8
so
characters
wild. And was
of the 89.
Was it the 8 original from?
It's the 8 original, of course. The 8 original OG characters. And then you randomly got them every 10 minutes worth of playtime. So no matter what you did, if you're playing World of Light, if you're playing one player, if you're playing multiplayer, after 10 minutes expired, no matter what you did, it would go challenger approaching.
Yeah. With that
which,
little
like you were
alarm
saying, because we played the game all day, every couple of matches, and whoever won got to play the challenger.
Yeah. So we were both having this kind of like, if I ever won a match, like, you know, against you or whatever, and I got the challenger thing, I was like, holy shit, I'm playing Sonic or whatever else.
And you'd see the black silhouette, and it was always just like who's that Pokemon screen?
It was great, like, to see who we get. And so at the start, before we talk about the DLC character packs and the DLC characters that were released for Ultimate, what was our roster? Like, what was our standard before the DLC fighter packs?
So there were a total. DLC Wave 1 had 5 and DLC Wave 2 had 6. So I'm guessing
11 characters from
that's
the
11, 89 minus 11. So what's that, 78?
78 characters.
So there's 78 base characters.
Outrageous.
You know? That's an upgrade from 58 in the Wii U version. With the DLC, I'm not sure if it's 58 before or after DLC, but because the main selling point for Ultimate was to get everyone back, so everyone who had ever been in the game was included, and then they just launched a bunch of new ones. Like Sakurai had said, here, I'm trying to get everyone back, so I don't have enough space to add new ones, but he kept doing it anyway. Yeah,
and we got like the DLC Fighter Pass 1, and I kind of thought maybe that might have been it, and then we got the DLC Fighter Pass 2.
But even before that, we got the Simon and Richter Belmonts. Like nobody expected like big character names like that. We got King K. Rool.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't remember who came in before the base game was finally announced. We got the Piranha Plant. We got Ken. Did we get another one? We got Chrom. We got Dark Samus. And Incineroar, Incineroar was the other big one, the final Pokemon that was released.
And he had a great, because Ken had just been released kind of prior to him in terms of
they had the same reveal trailer.
The two of them were fighting in the boxing room.
They're fighting each other.
I love that, so that was, I think that's when Smash Bros. For me really changed from in terms of the, what would you say, the pull it had on the internet or in media and content creators and everything like that. There was this big rush to be like, and all the chat was going to be, who's going to be the next Smash character.
That's it. The internet really became a part of Smash Bros. Because everyone was always theorizing and looking at videos to see. Like, there were even times where Sakurai would have a yellow and like purple chair in his background while he's talking, and people were like, that's a nod to Majora's Mask, the two fairies, one being yellow, one being purple. Like, people were going, absolutely,
you guys are going fucking
but that
crazy.
Video would have 1 million views.
People went mad for it, and that was the cold psyche for Ultimate, especially for us as well, because it was this whole thing where, you know, Fighter Pass 1 was announced, and I think that opened with Joker, did it? That amazing
and not
Joker
only
trailer.
that, like, while I was at Smith's waiting just to buy the game, people were like, oh, hey, they've already announced the first DLC character. And I just could not believe, because I had played Persona 5. I've talked about it many times here, but that was just a perfect character for me. I was like, oh, amazing. And it suits so well.
You can see, like, over the development, of course, like, you know, it's been 18 years of making Smash Brothers games or whatever else. The level of quality that's gone into the individual characters being introduced into the game has heightened so much. So, like, Joker's intro was all in Persona 5 animation.
I had all the original audio cast from the game. All of them. Every member of the crew was in there, like, as part of the reveal trailer, and it even like it synced up to what the Phantom Thieves are all about. They're stealing a treasure, and then this time they've been invited, and he gets the invitation, and he just flips it over in his hand, and you see that
Smash
seal.
Brothers stuff. It's
like,
so good. And it had this whole thing because, you know, as well, like, it was in everybody's mind to be like, anytime there was another character due to be announced, everyone was hooked on it. One of my favorite announcements, of course, was when it would have been one of the first years that I was really keen on watching the Video Game Awards, when I got into, like, you know, the idea of like being up and with it for what was happening in video games. And I remember there being during the Video Game Awards there probably will be an announcement for one of the next Smash characters, and the Video Game Awards opened with the announcement of the Smash character, and it was so fucking good because Cloud's been in here for fucking 2 games now or whatever else, you know, just chilling, and he gets like Advent Children costume and everything like that. We're like, oh, this is fucking amazing. And then we get that scene from the opening of Smash Bros. Ultimate where everyone
gets
turned to dust or whatever,
spirits.
And you're like, oh my god, like, what's this? And everyone was like, oh, it's Master Hand or it's whatever else, it's the new big boss, that's who they're going to announce. And then the main boss of Ultimate gets chopped in half, and who's there but Sephiroth? And I was like,
what a reveal.
I was like, they'll stop at nothing. Like, there's nothing out of bounds. And again, this is what I loved about it. It was from that moment onwards my heart dropped, because I was like, well, that's another Square Enix character. Sora's dead and gone.
Never going to make it.
And the reason Ultimate is, when we'll talk about, we'll break it down real quickly at the end, what order we put the games in personally. Ultimate, for a number of reasons, is number one for me. Of course, it's the best Smash Bros. Game out there.
We'll spoil it.
Yeah, well, I know. We'll get to the second. But in terms of me waiting for the last character announcement and just sitting there being like, this will be fun, whatever it is, but man, do I wish that was my favorite video game character of all time, Sora. And to watch that trailer and to see Sora come in, and for Sakurai to, because I mean the Simple and Clean, that orchestral version, is such a great theme in terms of to evoke emotion and everything like that, that watching that as a closure of Smash Bros. Essentially being like, we're not going to have any more characters, this is it, this is the roster, and seeing Sora like fly over the whole characters, and, you know, all the characters in Smash, and the handshake he does with Mario at the end, and everybody's here, whatever is the tag for it. I remember watching that being like, this game is fucking insane. This game has no right to exist. It's impossible. It has no right to exist in the way that it does. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, it's called Ultimate for a reason. It's the fucking ultimate Smash Bros. Game ever. It will never be bettered. I don't think if they...
The only thing you could do is just do Smash Bros. Ultimate online, with it more of an actual online presence, where the game, like if a new Switch came out which had better online play, that maybe you could have a port of Smash Brothers that actually worked online, because that's the only area it's lacking in any way.
Yeah.
You know?
And for us, I mean, that's the thing that we've never worried about, because we've always had such a good group.
But I don't care about playing online. So I have a group of friends, so it doesn't matter to me at all.
We're very lucky in that sense. But in terms of the game as well, it looks amazing. Ultimate looks amazing. Yeah. The amount of levels, the character designs, how well balanced it is. Like that's the thing that always that blows my mind.
If you're talking competitive, Melee only ever had like Fox, Falco, Jigglypuff, and maybe Sheik and Falcon, and then Ice Climbers is pretty much the only character that's competitive in Brawl. And then the Wii U version, it was Bayonetta only.
Yeah.
And then in Ultimate, I even looked at the tier list today. There's at least 30 characters that win tournaments regularly, you know? And even the bottom tier characters are still characters like Ganondorf and King Dedede, who, if you play 4-player Smash, those characters will kick the shit out of you. So they may not be the best one-on-one, but those same characters will annihilate you if you play 4 players. So there's a niche for every character in this game.
Absolutely. You know? Unbelievable. And I think, we won't go into too much detail about Ultimate, because I think on the next episodes when we're talking about levels and characters and everything like that, we'll basically be talking about them from Ultimate, because we'll be looking at the full collection of everything that we have. So we'll leave on this note. Craig, can you tell me the order in which, and any particular reason why this order is your favorite?
Mainly it's just because Smash 3DS I just think has to be my least favorite, just because even when I had it, I was still looking forward to the Wii U and counting the days. So it was more of an appetizer. And that to me is always what it was. So it's kind of 3DS and Wii U in one, but the 3DS is my least favorite. Then Brawl, just because it just didn't have as many new great things as the others, because Subspace Emissary required so much work, but once you've completed it, I've played all the Smash Bros. Games for hundreds of hours, but Subspace Emissary, just the 6, you know? And that's probably half the work went into that, So it's not as good then. Smash 64, just because it was the first one and how absolutely incredible it was at the time. Then it's Melee, just because of the trophies, the high-speed battling, the adventure mode, the all-star mode. A lot of people's favorite is Melee to this day, but the other games have just added way too much for me to even consider that a possibility. 25 characters compared to 89. Are you insane?
Are you mad?
Then there's Wii U version, 58 characters, 8-player Smash, DLC, and all these extra costumes.
It was when we really
cool
got into Smash for us as well.
Me and my friend group just clicked and started to play almost daily, you know, and then Ultimate just continued that trend and escalated it to the next level. And Ultimate is the defining Smash Bros. Game. So
I've got no argument with you in terms of Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I'll go through mine. In 6, I just have Brawl, because it was the one I played the least, the one I had the least familiarity with. Number 5 then for me is Smash Bros. On the 3DS, because I really enjoyed it, but it definitely had its flaws. It wasn't as polished as, and it couldn't be. It was on the 3DS, what more do you expect? But great fun to be able to, as you said, on the plane, those little moments I have. That's why I couldn't put it below Brawl, because I've had certain moments with the 3DS.
Just the day the Wii U version came out was the day I put it down forever.
Yeah.
Although that's the way I am with every single Smash Brothers game, with the exception of Melee. The new one always immediately replaced the old one.
Absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. There's no choice. 4th was Super Smash Bros. Nintendo 64, of course, the original OG. I love it, but playing it now, it's definitely dated. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, massively, yeah.
Number 3 then for me would have been Smash Bros. On the Wii U. Number 2 is Melee. It's when I spent a lot of time. Had my own GameCube. Melee was when I, honed my craft on Smash Brothers, so to say. And of course, Smash Brothers Ultimate, the number one Smash Brothers game out there, without a shadow of a doubt. Craig, that's been our first episode.
I felt like we had to rush through that.
We did, because otherwise we could be here for fucking 2 hours talking about this. But fear not, because I know we talked about Ultimate the least in this kind of episode of breaking down the games. But Smash Brothers Ultimate will be the game that we'll be referencing essentially when we talk about everything, because we're going to talk about maps, and we're going to talk about the full collection of maps from Ultimate, and the collection of music from Ultimate, and the characters from Ultimate, because it's got the greatest collection of all of those things. So when we're talking about Smash Bros. In the future, of course we'll be referencing the old games, but Ultimate will be our focus, I think, from this point onwards when we're going into our bits and pieces. In the post show for today, I'll be asking Craig some video game questions. Prep yourself for this, Craig. Like, in what game would you most like to live in to make the most amount of money? No cheating allowed. So I'm going to ask you those kind of questions. Just a fun little things, questions.
I get a couple minutes to think about that.
Yeah. So to our listeners, if you are keen for more content, do check out our Patreon at patreon.com/The Gift of Gaming. There's tons more content there. It's about £3 a month, cheaper than a coffee. Check it out. You'll be doing loads to support us. And if your friends don't listen to the podcast normally, just tell them to check out Gift of Gaming Podcast. We talk about games here every week. And I think that's my plug. That's the end of my plug.
How do you talk so fast and do it so concisely. Like,
I
I think that is concisely a word. See, I fucked up that one sentence I had to say. Like, I don't know how you're able to just like spew this all together and not like.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle it works at all, Craig. So yes, that's the end of our Super Smash Brothers episode 1. We'll be coming back to part 2. Actually, I'm going to flick through some pages here because I don't know what our part. Can you remember what our part 2 was, Craig?
Part 2 for what? What are you talking about?
Super Smash Brothers. Oh, here we go. Our episode 2 is going to be. We're talking characters for our next episode.
Nice. That's a good transition.
Yeah. So I don't know when that'll be. I don't know what we have. News.
It might be next week. It might be the week after. It might be 6 months.
The news is next week, but anytime after that, we could have the next episode of the Super Smash Brothers series. But if you enjoyed that, there's loads more to come. Craig, thank you so much for hopping on this episode of Smash Brothers. And to our listeners, as always and forever, keep enjoying the gift that is gaming. Peace out.